Good evening, everyone, and namaskar. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic in leadership insights that is extremely important but not very well understood. The awareness about this topic is low, but the intent towards getting this into businesses is very high. Because the topic that we are talking about today is redefining how the success of business is being measured. The topic today is ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance practices. Now, to understand this, since I said the awareness of this topic is low, but the need is very high, we needed an expert. We need someone who understands it from the basics, who understands it from a user point of view, who understands it from a business point of view, who understands it from a teaching point of view of what exactly it is and the impact of the business. So we need someone who had the theoretical experience. We needed someone who has a practical experience. And we needed someone who has that acumen to understand how and where will it fit into businesses, what challenges will come in the way, and how do we deal with those challenges. तो इसके लिए हमने एक ऐसे गेस्ट को बुलाया है जो ये सारी चीजें कवर कर सकता है. So today we are going to have with us Mr. Sujeet Pai. Sujeet is a certified independent director, an ICF certified business coach, and an ESG expert with nearly 3 decades of leadership. Now, he has worked across L&T, Hindalco, Emerson, and Linde PLC, where he last served as a country head and a managing director. That talks a lot about the vast experience that he carries. He has been recognized by Business World as one of 2024's top admired emerging directors. Now, he advises boards and CXOs on responsible growth, ESG integration, and building purpose-led, future-ready organizations. So this is the key. Purpose-led, future-ready organizations. Now, today, let's dive in and understand what ESG means and how it's now every leader's business. So let's welcome Sujeet with us. Hi, Sujeet. A very good evening.
Good evening, Prashant. It's a real pleasure to be on this show again. And to all our viewers across the globe, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining into this program. It's a real pleasure
Thank you
to
so
actually
much,
start
Sujeet.
with you again. Thanks for calling me to the show, Prashant. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujeet. Thank you for saying yes to being here. And I know when I reached out to you and I'm like, this is what I am doing, and, would you want to come back? You didn't just say yes to coming back. You said, let's talk about something that needs to be spoken about. Let's talk about something that very few people are talking about, but there is a very high intensity need out there for people to understand what this exactly is. And people who know what it is, how is it relevant to them? How do they apply it? How do they work with it? So there are a lot of questions out there which people would love to be answered. So thank you for being you, which is very proactive in saying, Prashant, let's not just talk about something that many are talking about. Let me bring something that I am an expert in and which will drive great value for the audience. So thank you so much for doing that.
It's my pleasure, Prashant. Thank you so much.
Great. So let's start. So the first question is just the basics, like what is ESG really about and why is it being called the new business imperative?
Okay. So, first and foremost, I think, we should try to understand that when we talk about ESG, it's something which is very esoteric. People start feeling ki that ESG, that terminology which is being heard. In fact, even some of my friends, when I talked about ESG, they were asking, what is this ESG? So that's something, yes, it's picking up a lot of buzz, I can say. It has been there for long. So if I have to just, before I come into the acronym, what it stands for and all, Prashant, ESG is like your business compass, which is actually guiding organizations to profit with purpose. I'll repeat again, it's a golden statement. ESG is like your business compass, which is guiding your organizations to make your profit, but with a purpose.
Purpose.
So ESG, if I have to break down this particular into 3 pillars, the first pillar that we are talking of, the E part of it, is the environment. Now, environment is an area we all know about, what all is happening. We are looking at products which are becoming more energy efficient. Be it any product, even at our home, we are going in for air conditioners and televisions, everything with a 5-star efficiency. We are going for a 5-star rated building automation systems. The simplest of the motors, even you want to go for motors, you're going for energy efficient motors. So everywhere we're trying to, reduce the carbon footprint and make our motors much more energy efficient so that you can do more power with less power consumption actually. So that is one part of it. The second thing is you would have heard about decarbonization initiatives, decarbonization. तो ये दूसरा एक चीज रहेगा कि आपको हर इंडस्ट्रीज, all the industries will be finding that there is something known as decarbonization, which means that you're trying to reduce the CO2 emission in your plant. Whatever your plant is, you're trying to reduce the carbon dioxide and all your, COx, MOx, and the greenhouse emission gases. You're trying to reduce it and reduce the footprint of the carbon, so that you are able to actually be in that particular aspect. The third thing which you'll be hearing is about the water conservation efforts. Many of those places where you say that we are water positive, we are carbon positive. Now, what is this terminologies, if I have to actually explain, is that it is nothing new. Like, for example, ITC, which is into the field of agro and your tobacco and all, ITC has been water positive for the last 20 plus years. Now, what is that water positive matlab? That it has taken so much of efforts that it is actually regenerating water by means of actually rainwater harvesting, by building in more trenches and pits so that you're conserving water than the amount of water that is actually being used in your process. You're actually generating more water than what you're consuming, and you're giving it back to the environment. So when you do that, you're water positive. Similarly, there is a terminology which is known as a carbon positive. Carbon positive in the sense that you're not generating CO2, but you're actually becoming on the, the carbon positive, you're actually giving back to the environment by more reforestation. You're growing more plants than what is required. So when you are doing it in the surplus part of it, that's something which is known as the carbon positive. So these are various terminologies which the companies have been doing unconsciously. Some of them have been doing this right from the beginning. And now, it has started gaining a lot of traction all across. So that's the first pillar that I would like to say is on the E part of it, that is the environment. All of the organizations, even my earlier organizations, we have been taking a lot of initiatives in ensuring that the water is recirculated. Even in the societies, you would have seen that the water from the flush, it goes into your sewage treatment plant, and from there for your landscaping. So everywhere, we are trying to recirculate, reduce, and recycle. That is on the first pillar, which is your environment. The second pillar is more about the social equity part of it. So it's more about safety. Now, when I look at it from a safety perspective, am I having the same type of a yardstick that I have in my company for my employees? Am I extending that to even my distribution team, my maintenance team, those who may not be on the roles of the company, but they may be on the contractual roles? They may be my extended arm. So just to share with you that in our business, earlier business, which was relying a lot on the gas distribution and gas cylinders, it was all being outsourced to third party, where you had the drivers. And those drivers have to go through chaotic road conditions, grueling heat. And after doing the service for 8-9 hours, when they come back, are you giving them the same comfort in their restroom by having air conditions? Are you giving them proper rest? Can you have the tenacity to go and sleep in their bunk bed? If that is there, then I think you have touched that point of social equity and safety part of it. So that's something which is very important on the second pillar, which is your social part of it. Like safety is there, then you have diversity and inclusion. By diversity and inclusion, I just don't mean about the gender diversity. I also mean in terms of specially challenged. Is your thinking good enough that your toilets and restrooms are having which you can actually have a ramp facility, or for the those who are specially able, do you have that? So these are the things which we have to start thinking. People have to think about. Organizations are thinking about it. And the third part is the community development, that it is not only me and my plant and everything. It doesn't end at your gate. It goes beyond that. It looks at your whole community. Are you uplifting your community which is there? And many organizations are doing it. Like, for example, Tata Steel, and even for that matter, Linde, when we were there, in your vicinity, you try to develop your community because it is an ecosystem which you are there. It is a community welfare. So you have to see that is your second pillar, which is your social pillar. And the third pillar is your governance. Most important of that, most important, you may be having the good intention of environmental stewardship. You may be very good on social equity, but if you don't have ethical governance, then your reputation and the organization can collapse overnight. Very important, you need to have ethical conduct, transparent disclosures, and your board should be competent enough. And that's why I keep saying that whichever board you are there, the company, it should have the proper the board structure. There should be independent directors who will be there, and who can actually come forward and have the courage to actually show the direction to the company and to the organization. So these are the three pillars: your environmental pillar, your social pillar, and the governance pillar. And all of these three, they have to coexist and be together. So that's something about the acronym part of it. I told about it is like your business compass, your moral compass, which is guiding the organizations and taking it forward. And it has become imperative now, Prashant, that these organizations, all of them, they are all trying to go forward, because the ESG as the three pillars is governed by four core principles, which I would again repeat: four core principles.
Okay.
The first is actually the continuity, because any organization has to be adaptable. We have seen that in very difficult circumstances of COVID also, organizations have been adapting themselves. So you need to be very much business future ready. You have to be future ready for your business and try to adapt yourself to the different times. COVID has really taught us it was no longer that you have to be face to face. You could be in a hybrid work environment and still you can actually operate and ensure that your business goes forward. That's something which is very important. The second part is that in terms of your opportunity, because this particular thing is opening up a lot of opportunity areas. As I mentioned to you, when you start looking at energy efficient devices, you don't have to use high power consumption for any of your electrical devices. For example, in my previous organization where we were having solenoid valves, which are small devices, from a 24 watt consumption, which is to be a high power consumption, we came down to 0.3 watts, which is very small, intrinsically safe solenoid valves. I'm just giving an example. So what happens when you're able to operate your pipelines and downstream with a slow power wattage, your energy efficient devices, it opens up a plethora of opportunity areas which can be actually tapped. So ESG, we should not feel that it is only to look at compliance. It goes beyond compliance and it opens up a vista of opportunities. Absolutely. That is the second core principle of opportunity. And third is, I will say that reputation, and it's all about trust. They form the social factor for any company's respect which is required, and credibility, any organization. So reputation and trust is also very important. That has to be there. And finally, it is all about the efficiency reduction and all what we are doing in terms of reducing your wastage. Your organization becomes very much lean focused, and you try to bring in initiatives to improve the productivity and how you can actually contribute. So these are the four, I will say that the guiding principles in addition to what the ESG is all about. Now, your second part, which you said, is about why is it becoming imperative? Like more and more organizations are forcing themselves to the center stage, and we are finding that because I think the whole idea is it is being driven. It is the whole the globally we are all actually getting focused on it. The reason is because of the climate changes, Prashant. If you would have seen, one of the major risks, there has been so much of risk and disruption this year. Never before have we faced so much of rainfall, heavy rainfalls, right from our top, from Uttaranchal, Delhi NCR, Himachal. How it has been, battered, the rain battered. You have seen the whole Himalayan belt, right up to Arunachal Pradesh. It has been a total chaos. We have seen a lot of rainfalls, and supply chain risk is the new normal. You're facing that in your business. Unless and until the businesses start looking at it, that you can't isolate and say that, it is not my purview. It is for the government to look after, or these are things beyond my control. Fine, if it is beyond your control, but are you risk ready? Have you factored that risk in your supply chain? Because that's something which is very important to consider. The second factor which I'm seeing over here is the capital and the investor pressure. This is something which is very important, because investors, when they are actually investing, they are looking at organizations that are ESG ready, that they are looking at organizations which can, because if you look at any of the mutual funds and open it up, you'll be finding ESG thematic funds. ESG thematic funds are those funds which are the companies which are more focused on the ESG part of it. So they are looking at
Okay.
organizations. It's not only the financial metrics, my top line, bottom line, what is going to be my revenue, what is the profitability, dividend kitna de raha hai. That's fine, one part of it. But you're also looking at, is this company ESG focused? Is this
Hmm.
organization? And because they are looking at next 5 to 10 years, because this company is going to be, give the yield returns over the next 5 to 10 years. They are ESG focused. So if you won't believe it, the total global assets under management, which is there, is around $30 trillion. 30 trillion is a huge amount. And in India itself, the green bonds which had been coming, it's around $20 billion. It's more than that cumulative. So there's a lot of money. Investors want to invest. They want to look at companies which are very much on the ESG focused, and they want to really go forward with that.
Great.
So there is a lot of capital and investor pressure. And the other thing which has now happened is, along with the Companies Act 2013, and we are seeing that the government is mandating that the top 1,000 listed companies, as per the mandate, this is the SEBI's mandate, okay, Security Exchange, that the top 1,000 aapke jitne bhi listed companies as per the market capitalization, you all have to file in your BRSR report. Now, what is this
Okay.
BRSR? I'll just break it up. It is the Board Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting. So
Okay.
just like your financial metrics, Prashant, I'll try to explain to the audience here that just like your financial metrics, which covers in your annual report, well, your balance sheet is getting covered, and what is your top line, bottom line, what is your profit, what is your EBIT, all that. So similarly, in that particular parlance, you also need to disclose the 9 principles of the BRSR in terms of आपने कितना wastage reduce किया, how much has been your energy consumption, what have you done for your employees, what have you done for the community welfare. So those 9 areas people have to fill up. Now it does happen that yes, some of them are just making it like a checklist. It used to be, but now the shareholders, the investors are asking tough questions. They
Hmm.
are asking tough questions, and with the social media, it's becoming so much that the balance sheets are getting discussed on LinkedIn platforms. The
Hmm.
balance sheets are getting, and it is getting ripped. Like they're opening up the, just giving an example, an ABC company, and then they will be saying that this is the company, what have you done last year and this year, also the same things, you have not done anything on the community welfare. So people are getting aware, Prashant, and this is the other thing where your regulation and disclosure mandates have become very much important. Having said that, now I have told about the 1,000 listed companies which are there, the top 1,000 listed, they have to do as per a part of regulation disclosure. But that
Hmm.
doesn't absolve the smaller companies. It is going to come. Not now, but in the
Hmm.
future, it is going to come that all those companies which are there down the supply chain, upstream, downstream, they all have to comply. This compliance is going to be there where they have to actually start reporting their ESG parameters. So that is the other part of it. And then the fourth part, which is another important thing which I find is becoming imperative, is that the stakeholders are becoming knowledgeable. To
Okay.
just give an example, during our time, we didn't have anything like an EVS subject and all. But if I look at my
Hmm.
daughter, right from the sixth standard, she is having, a subject totally on environmental sciences, and she is knowing what about green bonds. She is knowing about all these, the green energy, carbon credits, and all that. So just imagine the level
Hmm.
of understanding of the children. They are being taught on this particular lines to be more environmentally conscious. And when you want a Gen Z guy to actually join your organization, he's not looking only at your financial metrics. He is looking at, is this an organization which is purpose driven? I'm again using this
Hmm.
word. Is it an organization which is having a purpose driven organization? Is it doing something with a larger picture, or is it only looking at the financial metrics? Okay,
Hmm.
so they are also very, very concerned about it. They are looking at all those parameters. They are knowledgeable. So even the stakeholder awareness is improving, and even the regulators are also getting totally understanding about it. So by and large, I will say that ESG, you need to understand that it is a holistic effect which is taking place, be it in terms of your capital, your investors, your regulatory mandates which are actually coming up. The stakeholder awareness is improving, and it is also opening a lot of opportunity and differentiating parameters. If someone says मुझे ESG अभी नहीं करना है, जब होगा 5 साल 10 साल के बाद, you will be left behind. You will be left behind. This will be an entry ticket for you to go forward. So you can't be left behind, because sooner or later the bigger organizations will be definitely asking that, what have you done for your ESG? Show me the parameters. I will subject you to audits, and if they fail in the audits, then somebody else will actually pick up, and he will be become a part of the supply chain. So these are some of the things. I thought I will give you some examples about it.
Sure. Sure.
That is the whole
Thanks.
thing, Prashant.
Thanks, Sujit. So from what I hear, what you said, first of all, thank you for giving us so much information in detail. And you just didn't give us information. You also gave us things to think about and consider. So if I as a business owner or just a responsible citizen think about what you said, it hits me somewhere saying that कि हाँ ये जरूरी है. Now somewhere I also feel कि शायद bits and pieces में ये सब हो रहा था. Like the E was probably getting dealt separately in some ways for a very long time. बहुत लोग environment के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. Maybe the S was also getting catered in some way. The G also was getting, but I think as a package where you are like, we don't want to focus on only E, only S, or only G. Now we're looking to bring it together because all three are very important and they so beautifully, are connected, or interconnected is the right word, with each other for them to work well, for them to work right. Now, that is one thing that I see is very good, that ESG has brought them together on one platform. Second thing that I see is the difference between compliance and responsibility. अब क्या हो जाता है, there are a lot of times when you're very compliance driven, we do something when it has to be done, there is no other option because it is stopping me from getting where I want to get. So from a compliance point of view, वो checkbox नहीं होगा तो I cannot move forward. So I just put everyone together saying that किसी तरह ये compliance ले आओ, and so that I can move forward. So moving away from that compliance way of doing things to a responsibility way of doing things is what I loved about what you said, because you also spoke about how Gen Z is also looking at it from a responsibility point of view. And I'm glad that they're doing that, right? Because they look at the country, they look at the planet as their own. They don't look at it like, यार मेरे को बस अपना किसी तरह चलाना है, मेरा घर चल रहा है 5 साल 10 साल. They don't have that short term thinking. And that's very mature for them to have that kind of a thinking without the experience of years that they carry. And it takes me back to like the last episode where we were talking about how to lead Gen Zs, how to lead boomers, the differentiation. So this brings in that element. One point that came there was that we need to use the strengths of each generation. So I think this generation brings in that strength where they question responsibility, not just compliance. They're like, इसका impact क्या है? मेरे ऊपर छोड़ दो. Beyond that, what is its impact on the world? What is the impact on the planet? What the purpose driven term that you used? What exactly is your purpose when it comes to the overall environment or the overall planet or the country or the state, larger than just the organization, than that building? So I think that's a very key point that you mentioned. I love that thought process. So I think putting these three together, compliance versus responsibility, today's generation thinking about it from a very long term point of view, the purpose driven point of view, that is great. And fourth thing that you mentioned is that opportunity thing. That as a business, I'm not just looking at what am I giving, what am I giving, what am I giving in a long run. I'm also looking at what am I getting. So, okay, so if I have this, I am creating something which is great, amazing, but there are also opportunities getting created. So me as a business will grow. I will reach places where I would otherwise not reach. Now that's an amazing thing, right? So it's like a win-win that's getting created. So these are the pointers that I could gain from what you said, Sujeet. So thank you so much for this. Yeah.
One
So
thing I
this
just
takes.
want to just to add one more point to that is that when you talked about the opportunity, Prashant, it opens up because as of now, the more you're doing your efforts on the ESG, you're reducing your carbon footprint, the banks are actually looking at it. The banks will be giving you loans and they will be reducing your rate as much as your carbon footprint and
Hmm.
what all you are actually reducing it, आपको soft loans, will be getting it, like Axis Bank, HDFC, you name it. They're called sustainability linked loans. So if you want to
Okay.
really get the advantage of it, you show, demonstrate it, that how much you have reduced your energy consumption, what have you done in terms of
Hmm.
your social factor, and audit it. Once you show all that, you also get
Hmm.
your credit, like your loans are actually dispersed. So that's another plus point of it. And just to add one more point, usually people have a feeler that यार हम लोग CSR करते हैं, corporate social
Hmm.
responsibility, CSR. So
Hmm.
please understand that the CSR is not to be misconstrued as a part of ESG.
Hmm.
CSR is something which you have a 2% of your net profit of the organization that you use it for philanthropic activity. Philanthropic
Hmm.
activity. It can be on any of those platforms. It can be for skill development. It can be for education, community welfare. But ESG is much more deeper. ESG is something where you are integrating your environmental stewardship, your social equity, and ethical governance into your day to day operations of strategy,
Hmm.
operations, and your complete organizational vision. So I just wanted to
Hmm.
share that, Prashant, on this note.
आई गेट इट।
You were
आई गेट
touching.
इट।
Thank you so
मेरे
much.
मेरे दिमाग में क्या है ना, जब आपने ये बोला, वो एक कहावत है ना हिंदी में, क्या 100 चूहे खा के बिल्ली हज को चली। So I, that comes to my mind that maybe with CSR you could do that, where you are doing everything or most things which are not right, but 2% net profit दे दिया तो कोई सवाल जवाब नहीं हो रहा है, whatever you have done. But I think with with this ESG thing, you can't do that because it is
You
right in
can't.
every step of doing things. It is right in your processes, in your systems, in your way of doing things. So you can't be like कि यहाँ तो मैंने आग लगा दी और यहाँ पे मैं पानी बेच रहा हूँ. So you can't do that anymore. So this is
Absolutely
nice.
right. Absolutely. I think you have explained it to the audience well. That मैं जितने भी पाप करना है मुझे पाप करने दो, लेकिन फाइनली
Uh,
जो मेरा प्रॉफिट होगा 2% मैं जाके भेंट चढ़ाता हूँ. In the sense that I
correct.
try to have a person who is in CSR. Okay, we have generated enough profit. Go. No, it is something internalized when you look at ESG.
Mm,
It is from an
mm,
organizational ethos, organizational pillar.
yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Prashant.
So the responsibility as a word, keeps hitting me that for this to function well, see,
Hmm.
maybe it will happen 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, it will be like Danda Leke that everybody has to do it. It becomes so strict, but why take it to that level? So if people think and if businesses run it more responsibly, then they might have to take a little pause and fix their things, fix the systems, put things in
Right.
place. But then you will accelerate much higher. Watch my what might look like I have to come down from 100 kilometers per hour to 70 to get this done, but then you run at a 200. So what you don't realize is that in a long run, which you are in for, you're not here for a 100-meter sprint. If you are, then I don't know if this applies or not. But if you're here for a long run where you're looking to build something over next 5, 20, 30, for
Absolutely.
decades going, then this will be like that extra nos, which the button that you press and, it will take you
Right.
to 200, 300, and you move ahead in the race.
Right. Right. Right.
Great, super. So
Great.
moving forward, Sujit, let's take it to an implementation level. Now, from what you said as a business owner, I understood this. Now I want to understand what challenges will I face as a leader when we are trying to bring this whole thing from paper to practice.
Okay. So, the biggest thing which happens, and I can tell you that with conviction, being a business leader myself, easier said than done. What actually happens
Hmm.
is the real test of ESG is not in those glossy reports that we see, like in every annual report, you'll be having a leaf or you'll have an azure blue sky showing that, how much carbon credit. I'm telling you, or there will be a hand which shows you social equity, and then that's all glossy reports. But beyond that, it's all about how many internal processes, the supply chain changes, the behavior, and what all changes I have done incrementally in my organization towards this particular thing that counts a lot. And it
Hmm.
involves a lot of effort, which is there, Prashant, at the grassroots level in every department. Now, the biggest challenge, which as a leader, and I can say that, is that when I look at it, the first and foremost is your mindset and the cultural shift that is required.
Hmm.
Mindset and cultural shift. in the sense that as a business leader, when I'm actually running the business, my first and foremost thing is that my financial metrics of the company. Everybody, we all have to look at your top line, आपका कितना धंधा, what is your revenue, what is your collection, what is your profitability, what is your P&L for the month. So these are some of the burning platforms which everyone is going through. And we are in a VUCA world where the changes happen so much constantly that every month you can't expect that it is just going like a simple steady water. You'll be having a lot of changes. Your competition strikes will be there. So from a sales perspective, the person will be actually looking at what is there in the business, because he has to look at the financial metrics. Everyone has to look at the financial metrics. The procurement person, he will be having to look that there's a lot of pressure from the sales to deliver on time. I have to ensure that the supply chain is intact. And at the same time, there's a lot of cost pressure. So how can I actually reduce the cost by going in with alternate vendor development? I have to look at multiple vendors and see that if I am able to reduce the cost, and then at the same time increase the payables, because your DPO is one factor where the procurement department is looking at. So they have their own KPI. The HR team is looking at onboarding, then learning and development. They have their own KPI. So everyone is working in their own silos. So who will be integrating all these things? So that is the biggest challenge. Now, as a leader, you have an ESG. Yes, you need to have your SDG, which is the Sustainable Development Goal. You have that with you at the start of the year. There is something which is there known as you have to do your productivity and ensure your GHG gas reduction and all. But then on a month-on-month basis, the focus is actually getting lost. That's the biggest challenge for the leader. मतलब मैं धंधा देखूं या ये सब चीजें करूं करके, because he's getting evaluated. He is getting evaluated. He is getting evaluated over here. That so this siloed thinking actually it persists, Prashant. It happens, and then ESG is sometimes viewed as a compliance cost or just something which is CSR plus. आप एक cost देखो, that is something which is a mindset that is there. We will come to that, why it has to change, how it has to change. But these are the practical difficulties which a leader faces. He has to ensure that he has to meet his target, and also month-on-month financial target he has to meet. That's something which is sacrosanct for him. The second part is the data and the systems gap. Ab data and systems gap matlab that you need to have reliable measurements in place. For example, I'm having a very old factory in my in the previous assignment, I had a very old monster factory, in the sense that 50-60-year-old factory, machinery was very heavy. Now in those factories, you cannot say that I want to have measurements which are real-time data chahiye. I can't do that. Those machines deliver your quality, but at the same time you don't have those sensors and all those systems. It requires cost. Uske par aapko cost karna padega. You'll have to retrofit in your existing, because otherwise it will become like your chicken masala is more expensive than the chicken, so that happens. So you have to look at the cost part of it. Many organizations, they lack robust IT and ERP systems. That is a bigger challenge. Like you have everything, but you don't have your IT and ERP systems in place. And even some of the disclosures which are actually happening, they're all happening back of the envelope with rough estimates, and that is not real-time monitoring. So this is a second challenge. The first challenge is your mindset and cultural shift. The second one is actually your data and systems gap, which is there. The third part is your governance and incentive management, in the sense that if your board and the leadership at the top don't value ESG as a very important part of it, or they don't have that ESG fluency, the board itself is not having that particular understanding of what ESG is all about, what is governance all about, then what can you expect from people down the line? So the vision at the top, the voice at the top has to be very clear that, yes, I'm not looking at a short-term thing for my business. I'm looking at a long-term vision for my company. I want to take this company which is more sustainable, environmentally, stewardship, and at the same time ethically governed. When you have those parameters being discussed again and again in the boardroom, it starts percolating down. It percolates down to all your departments, and then everybody knows that the people at the top are really serious about it. So, the voice at the top matters a lot. And that is important. The thing which I was talking about is your incentive pay. I'm just taking an example. If the leader at the top He is having a 20% variable pay. Okay, I'm just giving an example. Suppose he's having a salary of 1 crore, out of which say 20 lakh is a variable, 20% is a variable pay. In that 20% variable pay, if everything is going to be financial metrics around 60-70%, matlab revenue, inventory turnover, your collections and all that, you only have the financial metrics and keep 5% for ESG, which is involving in, he will say, okay, go and plant some trees over here, saplings karo, finish it off. I'm not concerned. Why should I give my time for that 5%? So unless and until the leadership is also having a strong incentive mechanism where the ESG forms a major component, you have a 50% ESG component, of which 20% is going to be for your environmental, 20% is going to be for your social cause, and 20% is going to be for your how many audits you are carrying out, what are your transparent mechanisms you have brought in place. When you have that strong, then you know that your dependency is much higher and it percolates down. So this is the other part which is important. And the thing which I told is that the cost issues are there, Prashant. Like if it's an old Baba Adam type, machines which are there and you want to do retrofit, the cost of conversion is very high for those machinery, and that also becomes a very important part of it. The fourth part is your supply chain. You are doing your job, everything properly, but suppose your vendors are not really equipped. If they don't supply you proper quality, then your whole brand is running at risk. And if you have a whole brand which is actually running at risk, then that can really create the downfall for the organization. Okay. And the other challenges which leaders face is, what should I follow? Like there are so many parameters, like BRSR is one thing which I told. Then there is something known as a group level reporting. If that organization is a part of a bigger group of APAC or European subcontinent or US, they will be having something which is global reporting initiative which will be there. So they have a different GRI norms. So someone has to map all these things, and you require a dedicated, focused attention. So somebody can actually map all these parts and do it. So we have to be clear about what all we'll measure and all that. So these are some of the areas. My only concern is that in the midst of all these things, the leader should not get into greenwashing. I'm using this term of greenwashing. Greenwashing is something like you are trying to pretend to be green. That I'm doing everything fantastic. I'm trying to be very environmentally friendly and all, but at the same time, at the back end, I'm generating a lot of plastic in my own organization. Okay, I'm serving a lot of my water in Bisleri bottles. So you have to preach what you're doing it. The same. One of the biggest examples which I can say is the Volkswagen, which happened. You remember the Dieselgate, where there was an issue. It became one of the biggest challenges, where they said they had done some tweaking in the chip back then, which was actually saying that all the cars were getting passed without any quality problems. And it became a big whistleblower case, which blew it up. So this is the other part where the greenwashing is a term that I'm using, where you try to pretend to be green, but actually your actions and words do not align with what you are. And the other one is a purpose washing, where you're trying to pretend to be, that I'm clean, I'm socially really good, but you're not good. For example, look at, one of those big brands, I think it was Zara or so, where they were saying it is all green and conscious and cruelty-free brands and all, but then they looked at the labor class which was actually working on, they were not being paid properly. It was being done in one of the sweatshops in the neighboring country, and it became a big issue where they were not being paid, and there was a lot of strikes and all. So, these are the things where people are actually keeping, it can bring an organization down. The credibility can actually get eroded. If these are the challenges which, leaders do face, and if you're not in the doing it proper, then yes, you have a big challenge coming in forward. So transparency is something which is the new currency in ESG. Do whatever you can. Transparency is the new currency, and if you can't measure, this is the biggest challenge for the leaders. If you can't measure, you can't manage things, man. You can only measure. So you need to make a start, and those are the bigger challenges. So true ESG is not about looking good. It is about doing good very much consistently, day after day, incrementally. do whatever, but do it small. Even if you're doing it small, do it in such a way that when the purpose meets the proof, the people and the planet start believing you. I'll again
Nice.
repeat that, the
Well put. Very well
proof,
put. Yeah.
people and the planet start believing you. So it is in these
Yeah.
actions which really count a lot, and that's how I will sum up with the challenges of all the leaders and what they all face from practical examples I have told you. This
Thank
is what.
you. Thank you, Sujit. Again, with the word just keeps coming back to my mind is responsibility. So everything that you're saying uh, is not technical, is not something which is like there's a lot to learn in it. So I can't apply it. I'll have to go through God knows what all training and new skill development. That's not what it is. It's more mindset driven. There are things to learn, of course, but that is a very small percentage. More of it is the mindset driven. Are you responsible in your mindset as a leader? And as you said, top line matters a lot. So if the leaders at the top, their mindset is in the right place, if they are driving it well, if they're looking at it in the right way that they should, in a responsible manner, then it flows down the same way. So my next question to you, Sujit, is about the mindset, because that seems to be where we have come to. That if that is not in place, everything else just shatters and falls away. So, what kind of leadership mindset do you think will shape the future of this ESG driven growth?
Okay. Very, I think it's a very interesting question that you have asked. And the biggest thing which I foresee is that if you are looking at a future perspective from now, Prashant, I feel that the ESG manager for tomorrow is not going to be a manager of compliance who'll say tick, 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 tick box. He's
Mhm,
going to
mhm,
be, I can say, a custodian of conscience. He is going to be a
mhm,
custodian of conscience, and this is the golden statement I'm repeating. It will be a custodian of conscience. So it won't be someone who is just doing it for the sake of doing it, but he's looking at it from a bigger picture. And mark my words, we are talking now in 2025, another 5 to 10 years down the line, ESG is going to be your entry ticket for doing your business. ESG will be
mhm,
your entry ticket. It is no longer just like now for any organization, you need to have audited financial statements to do
mhm,
your business. You need to submit all your audited financial statements. 10 years down the line, you want to have audited, credible ESG works, like what all you have done. And that will be your entry ticket.
mhm,
It will be just like, it is not going to be esoteric. It is going to be an entry pass for doing your business.
mhm.
And I can watch that. Mark my words, in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll be seeing this change. Now, we have discussed about, that what are the, how does the future look like? From now, if we are seeing the transition happening, and the first and foremost, if I have to look at it from an ESG lens, Prashant, is that the first is the finance part of it. Finance is linked to ESG outcome, as I explained to you, that the more you do better in terms of this environmental part of it, whatever, the banks are actually offering you interest,
Better
the
loans.
reduction in the
Mhm,
interest loans. So this is a major part of it. You just can't operate, today. And in fact, the real connection, like I've seen the banks being offering sustainability linked loans, where the interest rate drops if it hits your carbon rate reduction happens, or you hit your diversity targets, your interest rate drops. And this is something which is very unique. We had not thought about it in the ESG
mhm,
per se. So that should be one of the strong incentive for the organizations also to look forward, that it becomes like a report card, where how you can actually try to transcend at each and every stage level, what am I doing. And it makes the employee so much conscious. When you are giving back to the environment, you are being carbon positive, you are being water positive. Imagine ITC and all, the way they are for 20 years, they are water positive, and 19 years they are carbon positive, in the sense they are doing more than what they are actually generating. So phenomenal. So that is one thing which I feel is brilliant, which is happening, where the finance is actually linked to the ESG outcome. The second part is that we'll be seeing a universal reporting structure. What do I mean by the universal reporting is that ESG data, now we would like to have organizations. How am I going to equate? For example, if I'm a brick and mortar company which is having a lot of machinery, I'll be generating a lot of emission, I'll be generating a lot of flue gases, assuming it's a foundry or a casting industry. compare that with a software industry which is into a a building which is there having the data servers. So are we having the same yardstick for measuring or not?
Hmm.
Because that's something which is important, like for them it
Hmm.
is much easier to do it. For me, I have a lot more efforts which is required for putting my operations in place. So I think you will be having a universal reporting mechanism which people are looking forward, where you'll be comparing apples to apples. You'll be
Okay.
having some type of a weighted balance where you try to compare the one ESG's company's performance with the other. So the level of transparency will redefine how the trust is built in the markets. I see that coming in.
Hmm.
So that's the second part of it in terms of universal. The third part is the technology enabled monitoring. Most
Okay.
important, like now you are able to understand that you're building automation systems. What is your temperature, what is your environmentally friendly, you have all those things which are there. Everything is going to be IoT, internet of things, artificial intelligence. Your all your gadgets and everything, your machinery in the plant is going to be smart. It's already smart, but they will be giving you
Hmm.
more value and more data, that
Hmm.
how well you can actually economically operate all these machines, how you can actually harness the power of this machine by operating at this particular revolution, this particular. So AI is going to play a very important role, and this technology enabled AI and IoT, I'm sure that you'll bring in real time emission and monitoring systems into dashboards which everybody can do. So that's the
Nice.
third part which I'm talking of, the future, FUT, technology.
Hmm.
Then comes in your third is your upstream and downstream accountability. As I mentioned to
Hmm.
you, that ESG doesn't stop at your factory gate. Your
Hmm.
suppliers, your distributors, your link, everybody gets linked in this. So your upstream and
Hmm.
downstream, you have to ensure that all of them are actually along with you. All of them are there with you. It's an ecosystem, so you have to be there and support them. It's not going to be just that that is not my cup of tea. You have to manage and all that. Then comes your renewables, because more and more focus is going to come up, Prashant, in the days to come about renewable energy. We are still doing. In fact, look at the percentage of fossil fuel and India's
Hmm.
2030 targets, which is there. 50% is now coming in through the renewable energy, which is going to be the 2030.
Hmm.
50%. So no more on this
Hmm.
coal dependency and thermal power. You'll be having renewable energy, out of which 45% is going to be solar, and the balance 45% is your wind and hydro and all other things. So a lot of emphasis will come on that. Then hydrogen is going to be there, which is going to be there. You have seen the EV dominance also, which is happening in the market. So that is the other aspect which I find in terms of the future which is there. And then finally, your ESG is going to get linked to your valuations. So a company, the better the ESG score, it is not that it only get the line of credit and all that, but your valuation of an organization will go up. I see
Nice.
that as a complete change. So if I really sum it up, that is the future. FUTURE, which I have explained to you
Hmm.
fully. That is how it is. Now, for doing all these things, the mindset which is required for the leader, it is going to be entirely different. First and foremost is, again, I'll take the acronym of leader, L. He has to have a long-term vision. गरुड़ दृष्टि.
Hmm. Very
I always keep
important.
telling that एक तो चीज है कि आपकी सर्प दृष्टि, and the other one is your गरुड़ दृष्टि. सर्प दृष्टि
Hmm.
means your day-to-day activities, your short-term vision, your financial targets, your quarterly targets, and all that. But when you're looking at a long-term vision, 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, where am I looking at my company? That's something which is important. It requires patience. It requires understanding the market. It requires understanding the technology. It requires understanding the technology enabled monitoring. It requires understanding the
Suji, there seems to be some technical challenge. I don't know if you can see me or hear me, but the video seems to have frozen. It's all right. I'm sorry, everyone. It seems that there's some technical challenge, so I'll just wait for Sujit to join back, and we shall continue the conversation. Okay. Hey, Sujit. Sujit, can you hear me?
Prashant, did I miss out?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Sujit, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello. So a technology challenge happens. It's all right. We're trying to fix it. Okay. Some issue with the network. Sujit, you there? Can you hear me? Sujit, can you hear me? Hello. All right. I'm trying. Sujit, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. I can hear you.
Okay, great. So, guys, Sujit
Yeah,
is
sorry.
back.
So,
So we continue the
I'm so
conversation.
sorry.
Happens.
We
Hota
were
hai.
talking
Chalta
on
hai.
we were talking on technology, and then we just had a small glitch. So anyway, so I was
Yes.
just talking about the leadership. What are the requirements? The first thing is the long-term vision that is required.
Correct.
Very
Yes.
important to have an orientation of ESG in a long term, not the short term with the
Mm-hmm.
financial metrics, but you have to look at it from a long term, because if you are investing something heavy today, like, you won't be getting the returns immediately. That return will be coming only 3 or 5 years down the line. The
Mm-hmm.
second part is an ecosystem thinking, which is there. I'm just telling about the leader ecosystem. Now, what does ecosystem thinking mean? Is that jiva jivasya jivanam. This is the word which I would like to say, is that you are not only just thinking about you, everything is interconnected. You, your suppliers, your your broader community that is there. So just like Adani ports, which is there, they did a lot of things in terms of developing the mangroves, and also that the biodiversity and the community welfare also happens over there. The similarly with Hindustan Unilever, where there is a lot of focus on the agriculture and the farmer base, where the farmer economy they're also trying to improve, because when they improve, you also improve. So
Improve.
it is not that a selfishness desire, but you have to look at it from a jiva jivasya jivanam, where you take your
Nice.
community along, and that is something which is very important for a leader to actually grow that in his mind. The third part which is there is your agility in learning. Very important. You cannot be with the same old mindset that ye mere baat ka nahi hai, I won't be learning. No, you have to learn. You have to learn new frameworks which are there, because every policy what even we learned, it is changing rapidly. So you have to keep updated yourself. You have to look at, leaders must continuously learn and adapt. What are the changes which is happening in terms of your environment, in terms of your technology, so that you can rapidly adapt it. Otherwise you'll stay behind. That is the third part of it. And then You need to have the disruptive courage. That's a D I'm saying about for a leader. Now,
Hmm.
what I'm saying
Hmm.
about the disruptive courage is that you need to have the cheeks to actually change. You will have a lot of resistance to change. If you want to bring in a change in your organization, there may be a change. The bigger challenge is that, have I to invest that much of money? I'm just giving my own personal example. In my earlier organization, where we had an archaic manufacturing of electrodes, which was, it's a very old machinery, fantastic machinery, but you couldn't measure it. So what we did is, you need to have something known as a frugal innovation. What we
Hmm.
just got the Gen Zs together. They were very smart in terms of your coding, programming, and some of the bright guys. I told them that, what is it that we can actually make? How I can bring in real-time dashboard monitoring on this particular old plant with minimal cost? I'll give you all the support that is required. Those guys came up with a brilliant mechanism, and they opened up the whole the chest, which was having some sensors just from the market. They brought something very frugal way, and we had a fantastic real-time dashboard monitoring, which I would have otherwise
Wonderful.
spent in lakhs. So what I'm saying is,
Hmm.
guys, frugal innovation is very important. You need to have the disruptive courage. And even bigger organizations, like even the Tata Power, which used to be heavily coal dependent, now almost 70% of the power is renewables in Tata. So you have to keep
Wonderful.
changing and disrupting yourself. So another thing for the leader that you have to look at it. The next part of the leader, E, is more about empathy and inclusion. So at the
Hmm.
heart, we talk about ESG, the sustainability is all about the people. You need to have that
Hmm.
inclusive mindset of taking your team along. You cannot just say that you just for the name of tick mark again. It builds in trust. When you have empathy with your team, empathy builds a trust, and it also, inclusion builds a resilience amongst your team. Empathy builds a
Hmm.
trust, and inclusion builds a resilience. So
Well
you need
said.
to have a very strong thing. And that's something which I find that organizations like Hindustan Unilever, and even for that matter, we had a complete all women plant, which was there, all women, right from the entry gate till the dispatch and everything, all women plant. So you need to take such decisions where you need to have an empathy and inclusion. And the last part for a leader, R, is radical transparency. Honesty builds credibility,
Hmm.
guys. ESG leaders who are there, they will disclose not only their chest thumping things which are there, but they will also tell them
Hmm.
what are the flaws which I have made. Yes, and it has been a learning for me. You need to
Hmm.
have the courage. You need to have that transparency to show that, yes, and that is appreciated. You cannot say that I will be over, otherwise it will become again greenwashing. So be very clear. You can also scale back over what all your ambitions are, but whatever you're doing, do it in the right manner, because that's something which is important for the leader, the transparency. So if I have to sum it up, I'll say that if you do your purpose without a profit, is poetry.
Hmm.
Purpose, if you do a purpose, is there, but it is without any profit, it is poetry.
Perfect.
And if you do a
Hmm.
profit without purpose, it is pathology. Profit without a
Nice.
purpose is
Well put.
pathology, because
Very well put.
and the whole change which is happening is, in the 20th century, the leaders used to talk about market share and everything, but now in the 21st century, it is all going to be about how much the trust they are able to get, trust share, not the market share.
Hmm. Market
So
share.
my just advice to the leaders of tomorrow, your tomorrow CXOs, will be that the times are changing, and you'll be measured in carbon footprint and not in cash flows. You'll be
Hmm.
measured how much carbon, your weight is going to be in carbon, because that's something which will be
Hmm.
there for the future leaders, and it will not be in cash flow. And they need to speak the language of the climate. What is the social impact? And your governance has to be fluent. Just as they are speaking about your EBITDA, your cash profits and everything, you need to have your environmental stewardship, your social equity, and your ethical governance. You need to be on that particular thing for the young budding leaders. And they will be seeing that sustainability not as a cost. It will be not seen as a cost, but it will be an you're future proofing yourself and the value that you're creating, and that's something which
Yeah.
will be reflecting in your future leaders. So that's what I will say. You have to balance. You'll have to balance your financial as well as you have to balance your ESG if you have to be a very strong leader for tomorrow in terms of ESG.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Great.
I just
Thank
hope that
you. Thank you, Sujit.
I
Yes.
was I didn't want to miss out on the I think it's exactly an hour, and I think that glitch which happened. So
Yes.
sorry for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. It happens. That's what happens, right? With technology, things go haywire sometimes, and we have to bring them back. So I think this ESG acronym that you explained is very powerful. I think if that can be a takeaway for our listeners, just make a note of it. What he said, and each has its own value. But he started with long-term vision. So that again is something that's hitting me from what you're saying. That if a leader is not thinking long-term, if a leader is not playing a long-term game, is not going for that long run, and is actually looking for just a sprint, then you might not consider it, because then it will look for you as a cost. But if you're looking at it from a long run, then you will look at it as an investment, because the returns will come. They might not come today. जैसे म्यूचुअल फंड्स में भी कहते हैं ना कि put your
Yeah,
money there, keep it there. Don't
absolutely.
look at to cash out. How do I cash out tomorrow? How do I cash out in a month? How do I cash out in 6 months? It doesn't work like that, right? But if you are in there for that day to day selling and buying, then I don't know if this works or not for you. But if you're there for a long run, saying that I'm looking to build something over a period of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I want to build something that has great impact for me, that creates something for me and for the people of the company and for my customers, for my stakeholders, for the overall community. If you have that broader vision, which you should have if you're running a business, then this is the way forward. And responsibility is the word that comes to me again, that as a leader, you have to think responsibly. You have to think, how can I create something that is bigger than me, that's not just for my personal benefits. So this is how I see this conversation, Sujit, and I hope, like how you said, market share, profitability, revenue is not going to be the only way to measure success of the business. ESG is going to be very important in terms of the impact that we are having on the environment. How are we socially being responsible? And how is the governance taking care of all this, right? So I hope it comes and becomes a very integral part of a company sharing how they have done for the last 1 year. And it also becomes very important for us as citizens to expect that from businesses. If we don't expect that from businesses, then the businesses can get away from it. But if we become more responsible as citizens and expect that we want this from businesses every year, whenever they are sharing quarterly, annually, biannually, their business profits and their market share, we also want to understand the whole thing of how they're doing on E, how are they doing on S, and how they're doing on G. And I think this whole compliance parameter where SEBI is putting guidelines, you said, banks are putting in loans. There are other parameters also that's coming in place. I think that becomes a support system. Somewhere you need that in the beginning because the resistance is high. And over a period of time, I think people will take it on board and it'll fall into place.
Very true. Very
Good.
true.
So great conversation. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sujit,
you so
for
much.
your time. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. And as always, very valuable, very value driven. I think everyone in the audience. Sorry for the glitch that happened, but we are trying to get back as soon as possible. And very important topic. Think long term. Think responsibly as a leader. Look at everything beyond what we were discussing from a broad perspective. And it's very important for you to think that this is not going to give you benefits today or tomorrow or next week. This is something for long run. So think responsibly. Think not just for yourself, for the environment, for the community, for the generations to come. So on that note, thank you, Sujit, for being here. Thank you so much, and
A
thank you
pleasure.
everyone who joined us. And you
And
take care.
thank
Have
you
a
to all
great weekend.
wonderful audience. Thank you, Prashant. Thank you for all the wonderful audience. And if you have any queries or anything, you can just post in a DM to my LinkedIn or to Prashant. You can actually send it across, and we'll be happy to actually address those queries or any support you require. And once again, thank you, Prashant. I'm so glad that you. I would request all the audience to actually subscribe to Prashant, because he's bringing gem each and every pearls of wisdom that is every week he's bringing in with leadership insights. And I'm sure that you'll be able to gain a lot of traction, gain understanding about what all is there required for the leadership. Thanks once again. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Wonderful time.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you for always being kind, and take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful
Absolutely.
weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.